So the whole world's reacting to Billy Graham's death, and I wanted to record this video to give my thoughts and my thinking in line with a particular scripture, okay? Because the question I've seen from some people is, Billy Graham's dead now, okay, is he in heaven or is he in hell? And you've got obviously people from both sides of the camp giving their point of view. And this is why it's interesting, because I said the whole world is reacting, okay? It doesn't mean the whole world is going one way or the other way, especially in Christendom, as we like to call it. There's both sides of the fence, and it's really interesting when you put things into perspective, okay? Because you've got one side of the camp that are saying, okay, he was the biggest, most popular evangelist of the century or of the previous century, etc., in the last 100 years. Bear in mind, he was 99 years old. Then you've got the other camp that are saying, oh, Billy Graham was a heretic. He sold out, as people like to say. He basically started good or whatever, and then basically towards the end he started diluting the gospel and all that kind of stuff, and started bringing in heresies. Well, it's interesting when you think about it, okay? He was 99 years old. So what does that mean? That means, if you think about it, okay, 50 years ago, okay, 50 years ago, 5 decades ago, he was 50 years old, 49 years old. So what does that mean? That means when he was 50, okay, a large majority of the people today that are calling him a heretic, calling him all that kind of stuff, were not even born, okay? Let's go back 60 years ago, okay? That's a whole nother decade of people that have gone, okay? He was 40 years old, okay? 70 years ago, he was 30 years old, okay? And when you start to think about it like that, I think it starts to put things in perspective, okay? Because from my personal opinion, okay, a lot of the people that I'm seeing calling him a heretic are more of the younger generation, okay? Now, I just said 60 years and he was still 30 years old, still old enough to be doing the ministry. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of Billy Graham's life and all that kind of stuff. I don't know when he got saved. I think it's safe to say he was way past my time, before my time, even though he's obviously been living, okay, for quite some time. But it's obviously people from a previous generation that probably would have obviously come up with Billy Graham, all of that kind of stuff. And obviously today, like I'm saying, you're hearing a lot of the younger people. Again, when I say younger in regards to Billy Graham, we could easily be talking about 60 and under, okay, 50 and under, and all of that kind of stuff. So why did I bring up his age? Well, firstly, just so you get the context, but I don't think it's right necessarily to say either way he's in heaven or he's in hell. Why? Because there's one person that judges eternal destination. That's God, okay? That's not you and me. And some of you might be saying, okay, you know what? I saw the works he did. He said this or he said that and all that kind of stuff. Well, I've got one question for you, okay? Is King Solomon in heaven right now? Okay? And the reason I'm asking that question is because I wanted to share a bit of text today to give you some perspective. I'm not saying either way, Billy Graham's in heaven or Billy Graham's in hell. I don't know. I'm not God, okay? And yes, he might have said some questionable things in the later years of his life, in the later decades of his life, for that fact. But does that necessarily guarantee that he's going to hell? No, okay? Yes, he probably done loads of great things, as people on the other side are talking about, now that he's dead, okay? And yes, that was beneficial. But at the same time, just because of what we see and what we think we see, that doesn't determine anything, okay? Obviously, Billy Graham has gone now. He's obviously, he can't add any more physically to what he's already done, okay? His legacy and all that kind of stuff will live on, and that can obviously go both ways, okay? There can be more good, it can be more bad, all of that kind of stuff. But the reason I asked about King Solomon, I want to read this piece of text, and then I'll basically link it all up into this whole Billy Graham situation and Billy Graham's death, okay? So what I want to read from is 1 Kings chapter 11, okay? As all know, Solomon was the wisest king to ever live, okay? And look what it says about Solomon, who, and I'll get it put up, okay? So at this point, he'd done so many different things, okay? He was set to build God's house, okay? He was a big offering, okay? He offered big offerings to the Lord on different occasions, okay? He was really pleasing in the sight of the Lord, to the point where God said, you know what? Ask me whatever you want, okay? He asked for knowledge and wisdom and understanding ultimately, and God said, you know what? Because you haven't asked for certain things, Okay, I'm going to give you all of that stuff anyway, on top of what you specifically asked for. Okay, so he's at this point doing really well. And look what it says about Solomon. It says, verse 1, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, Hittites, of the nations which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. Surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And look what it says about Solomon. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. Turned away his heart from what? Verse 4, for it came to pass when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father. So what does that say? That says, in Solomon's later years in life, okay, the women he chose to marry turned his heart away from God. Okay, so think about that. Think about that in context of what we're talking about in regards to Billy Graham's death. Okay, let's say, for example, in his later years, he started diluting the gospel and doing all that kind of stuff. Okay, is that any different to what Solomon was doing here? Okay, how many of you watching this video will say without a shadow of a doubt King Solomon's in hell? Okay, you probably wouldn't. Okay, and I'm not saying he is in hell or he is in heaven or anything like that, but I'm trying to use this for context so you can think about this and get perspective. Okay, just because someone does some stuff in the later years of their life, it doesn't necessarily mean they're damned to hell. Okay, you don't know what he was doing the last days of his life. You don't know if he repented of any sins he may have committed, etc. Okay, these are the things you need to consider. Look what it says next. 5, for Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord as David his father. Okay, so women turned his heart away from God to other gods. It says, verse 6, did evil in the sight of the Lord. He went after these false gods. Okay, and think about this. Some of you saying this, some of the things that you're saying about Billy Graham. Okay, is it any worse than what King Solomon did? Look what it says next. 7, then did Solomon build an high place, okay, for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. So right before the city where his kingdom is, Jerusalem, he built a high place for a false god. Okay. 8, and likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. Okay, so not only for one, he did it for all of his strange wives that did these funny stuff. He built these high places to make offerings for them, sacrifices to these gods. 9, what does it say about the Lord? And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. 10, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. 11, wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, forasmuch as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Okay, so 11 verses, 12 verses, they're literally of the latter years in Solomon's life. Okay, so think about that. Okay, before you start judging people to hell because you want to stand in the place of God, because you're looking at someone because someone said something or someone did something. Okay, God is the one that sees. God is the one that judges. Is Billy Graham in hell right now? I don't know. Okay, I'm not the one doing the sentencing. I'm not the just one that's gonna look at everything and say, okay, you know what, well done, good and faithful servant, or depart from me, you workers of iniquity, I never knew you. Okay, that is not my place to judge. That is not your place to judge as well, because you're not God. Okay, so just because some people do certain things that might be negative, okay, everyone does bad things. Okay, it says it in the scriptures. Okay, if you've offended in one area of the law, you've offended in the whole area of the law. Okay, so just because you think that you might be doing something small, okay, that's sin. Okay, in the eyes of God, okay, it's still sin. Okay, you're still breaking that law. Okay, so those of you looking at it like that sense, thinking about it from an Old Testament perspective, think about what you're actually saying. Okay, because anyone can do the wrong thing. We just read about the wisest king to ever live, King Solomon. he allowed his strange wives to take his heart to go to other false gods and start worshipping them, where it gets to the point where it even says verse 6, Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord. And it also says verse 9, and the Lord was angry with Solomon. Okay, so think about this kind of stuff. It's easy again for everyone to just turn around and say, okay, yeah, Billy Graham did this and Billy Graham did that. Okay, one thing I will say is this: there's more people talking about the good that he did than the bad that he did. And I'm not saying that to justify him in any way. Okay, I don't know Billy Graham, never met him, anything like that. Again, I'll say it again, I'm not the judge. That this is for God to decide how he sees fit the life that Billy Graham led. Okay, so just because we've seen here, okay, with King Solomon, okay, someone who's gone to the point of rejecting God and going to worship other gods, making God angry, you never know what's going to happen at the end. Okay, so it's that simple. Okay, we don't know what Billy Graham was doing in the last days of his life. Like I said, we don't know. Okay, whether he said something that was heresy, whether he said something that was against the gospel, okay, the true gospel, okay, God is the one that's going to make those judgments and decide, okay, this was right or this was wrong. And God is the one that's going to ultimately determine his eternal fate and your eternal fate and my eternal fate. So I just wanted to give my opinion, okay, on this whole situation, because like I said, there's people on both sides of the fence, and I thought this was a key scripture. The scripture dropped in my heart just to kind of discuss this whole situation. Okay, it's not always about being God, because we're not God. Okay, and I'm not in any way justifying people sinning or anything like that. The scripture says in Romans 6, because we have grace, should we continue in sin? And Paul writes, God forbid. Okay, so I'm not justifying that in any way. I'm just giving you perspective, okay, from a standpoint of we're all sinners, we've all done things wrong. And yes, some people are out there knowingly deceiving. I just did a video recently about this particular situation, okay, well, where I was looking at a situation about the Garden of Eden and what happened. I'll put it in the cards. Okay, so bear that in mind. When you're thinking about all of this kind of stuff, think about situations like King Solomon and the situation he found himself in the latter years of his life. Okay, but no one really says, and I've never really heard people talking about King Solomon as in hell. Okay, one thing that's actually really interesting is if you do a study in towards the New Testament, you don't really hear too much about Solomon. Okay, you hear little statements here and there by Jesus Christ about the lilies and all that kind of stuff, but you don't really hear anything else. Okay, so we don't know what happened to Solomon. God knows what happened to Solomon. It's God's place to make those judgments, and it's God's place to make those judgments on you, on me, on Billy Graham, and anyone else. Okay, so just think about that before you say things, and I'll just leave it at that. Okay, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks and take care, and all the best.